Welcome back. Well, have you ever watched a medical drama and thought to yourself, I wonder if it really happens that way? Well, according to a study published in the journal Trauma Surgery and Acute Care, it concludes that medical dramas, Grey's Anatomy specifically, may, quote, cultivate false expectations among patients and their families when it comes to realities of medical care, treatment, and recovery. Joining us now to discuss this is Dr. Ellie. It's good to see you. We're going to talk that this is indeed a TV show.
Absolutely.
Before we get to that, though, you wanted to comment, though, quickly on Scott Kelly, the DNA changes between the twins and the 2 inches in height
What
growth.
an amazing study. So what are the 7% DNA changes, they thought they're related to some biological pathways, basically 5 of them that happen in space. So when people are in space and space flight, basically space flight's associated with stresses, with oxygen deprivation, just stress being up there, inflammation, and dramatic nutritional shifts. What they're eating up there is different from that standpoint. And also there's, besides the calorie restrictions and things like that, they're exposed to radiation up there. So those can change the DNA, both in terms of their capacity for just having changes, but the capacity for repair. So those could have influence, as scientists think, on the DNA. So it'll be very interesting to see how the DNA changes over time, and the fact that he's an identical twin gives us such influence.
Yeah.
Right. So it gives us such an opportunity to see how this change materializes over time, and the impact and influence of this over our understanding of the influence of space on the human body as we think about Mars and future space travel is amazing. And with that, I want to kind of talk about, on March 14th, Stephen Hawking died. So our big understanding of space and the universe was very influenced by his work, and we lost a great mind, and also someone who had ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, and so our understanding of that disease and the fact that he lived so long with it was very profound.
Well, he was diagnosed when he was so young, when he was in his 20s, and nobody thought he was going to live but 2 years, and he died when he was
And so the ALS challenge we had a few years ago, it's kind of out of mind, but remember that disease, because a lot of people still suffer for it. And he died on Pi Day, which for Curtis must be important. Pi is the ratio of the circumference of a circle to its diameter, so Curtis is a curler. That's very important.
I was wondering where you were going with that. I thought you were doing
like
pies.
Very important. So that's important. And he also died at Albert Einstein's birthday. So it's very important as a mathematician. He died on a very important day for mathematics. So
there you go.
So keep that in mind, because Stephen Hawking was a very important mind to our understanding, not of the universe, but us as lay people understanding and being intrigued by our universe. So
he was a very powerful voice. He certainly used his brain, and he articulated it well.
So sorry to digress from Grey's Anatomy.
I know. I want to make sure we get it in, because this was a study that you thought was interesting in the sense that, people are watching these dramas, and you know what? They're creating sometimes a false expectation of what to expect when they go to see the doctor. And that's having some kind of ramification of sorts.
So for me, I was intrigued when you watch TV shows that are medically oriented, that, the medical student, his first day of medical school, is saving lives, and it's an operating room and making major medical decisions. That's not how medical education goes, and that's not how things go. There's a show called The Good Doctor where their team is the surgeon does everything. There's subspecialties within the house of surgery where they're urologists, they're neurosurgeons, they're even within general surgery, there are people that subspecialize within surgery. They're trauma surgeons that actually do trauma surgery. So all of those things are different, where one person doesn't do everything, and the minute you start medical school, you're not in the operating room operating. So for people that are watching these things, be mindful and have confidence that people that are operating you have decades of training and years of training before they do these things. Where this becomes important is now patient satisfaction becomes a very important part in terms of the healthcare world, in terms of how we are looking at reimbursements.
And what is your frame of reference, right?
Absolutely. So this study was really interesting. They went and looked at two physicians and a nurse practitioner within the Level 1 Trauma Center, went and watched all episodes of the first 12 seasons of Grey's Anatomy, and they found all the trauma patients within that. And then they went and compared them within the national database, and they took equivalent patients within similar injuries, similar ages, and all those factors in the northwest region of the country. And they compared them, and so they had 290 patients versus almost more than 4,800 patients, and they found that in Grey's Anatomy, the patients were younger, they're more likely to be female, they had more severe injuries, and they're more likely to go straight from the emergency room to the operating room. 71% versus 25% in reality. They were more likely to die from their injuries, 22% versus 7%. So more likely in reality, people survive their injuries than they do in TV.
That would be good for the patient satisfaction.
Which is great for patients. People with really severe injuries are also more likely to go home very early in the TV show.
And because they're done with the character.
Absolutely.
Right.
So, and the show has to end.
There you go. That's 30 minutes an
And
hour.
they're more likely to actually go home. People with severe injuries actually may have a graded stay where they go from the hospital to maybe a rehab facility or a skilled nursing facility, so they have a more a graded return to home so they can recover, they can be monitored, they can get their strength back. So the reason this is important is for people to have good expectations and realistic expectation of what their care is going to be from start to finish when they do have an injury, both themselves and their family, so that their expectations of how their recovery is going to be actually realistic and not based on a TV drama.
A long story short, make sure you have that conversation with your doctor.
Absolutely.
And don't download a bunch of Grey's Anatomies
Absolutely.
and try to figure it out. Good to see you.
Sure.
Thank you as always for being here. We appreciate Dr. Kez Ryan for coming in as always. You can head to Dr. Kez Ryan's website, KezRyanUrology.com, for more information. Or if you want to talk about this further or any other topic that you might have on your mind, you can listen and call him live on his radio show, which is The Conversation. It airs on WOKV every Saturday starting at 5 p.m.